Honorable Raman Singh ji, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste, Jai Johar, very good morning to all of you. It lies in your heart. Oh, we all know what lies in our heart. The finest pump ever made. It beats 72 times in a minute, and on average 250 million times in a lifetime. What's so new about it, Chief Justice Singh? Why are you boring us? Just a second. Don't get angry. Give me some time. This is really the crux of this seminar, this workshop. And I definitely connect it up. Just give me some time. Thomas Alva Edison was the greatest inventor of all time. He had more than 1,000 US patents in his name. And same number of patents in Europe. His inventions inspired the worldwide industries. Electric lighting, electric utilities, phone, voice recording, motion picture. You take a name and he's there. He also invented incandescent lamp. If you go back from the era of the LEDs, CFLs, you remember those bulbs, You see those bulbs? They are different. No, probably they are I think they are the bulbs. Now in a bulb what used to happen was, there was a thread kind of thing. Now this was known as a filament. Now, when the electric energy goes through it, in a bulb it's mostly converted into light, a bit of in the heat. And a geyser and your heater, most of it's converted into heat energy and a little bit of into light. Now when Edison was trying to find out a best combination for the filament, he was not successful. He tried many things, many attempts, and he failed. His friends told him, "Why, Edison, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. Why? Haven't you failed in finding out a perfect filament?" He says, "No, don't say that. I haven't failed at all. I have succeeded in knowing what will not work as a filament." For the last 2.5 days, you've really been talking about what is rule of law, what is the role of the courts enforcing it. It's equally well to know what is not rule of law and when and how we abdicated our role in enforcing it. That will help you to understand what exactly is our role in enforcing it. What is not rule of law and when we abdicated our role in doing it, it's best illustrated during internal emergency from 26th of June 1975 to 21st of March 1977. If you have not witnessed that, if you have not gone through, you really cannot imagine what kind of a hell it was. I know it well. I not only witnessed it, I went through it. My father, a senior lawyer at Allahabad, he was initially arrested under Defense of India rules, DIR. He's supposed to have climbed, a kind of a pole, and he was trying to cut the electric wires. And when he was granted a bail, he couldn't come out of the jail. He was preventively detained under Maintenance of Internal Security Act, NISA. NISA today has been repealed, and now there is National Security Act, NSA. That's a time with the false FIR we've done, detention orders were antedated, false false documents were prepared. And by the way, have you read this book called 1984 by George Orwell? Anyone? Any participant? George Orwell was born in Calcutta, and this is a book all of you must read. This exactly shows how rule of law is perverted by the state. And if you read it, you will realize what was the time during internal emergency. Nani Palkhiwala was the greatest lawyer of the 20th century. And when I started practicing in Banda, I came to know that he's coming to Allahabad to argue a matter. I came to Allahabad to listen to him. And I was so impressed that when I went back to Banda, I sent down a letter. Without thinking, without realizing, not expecting any answer. But behold, within 15 days, the greatest lawyer in India, the busiest lawyer in India, he sends me a very nice letter. And that's our friendship. Pen friendship, we developed. In the next 20 years that he lived, we exchanged about 100 letters. I would write to him, he would send a reply to me. And imagine in one of the letters, when he was talking about internal emergency, this is what he says. It was a time of total despair to be a witness to the wrongs that were done to the people. Never in the history of our country, not even during the British time, the police and the bureaucracy debased themselves to such a level. And this led to their downfall where they stand today. I'm very sorry if there's some IS officer or the police officer present here, but sorry, without meaning any offense there. The good point is that some of these officers realize where they have gone, what malaise they have fallen into, and they resist. And they are subjected to frequent transfers, and Mukhyamantri will excuse me, sometimes suspension as well. That's the time our role comes in. After internal emergency, the government appointed Chief Justice Shah, he was the retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, and he is reputed to be the most brilliant judge who ever went to Supreme Court. As a chairman of a commission to inquire into excesses of emergency, he gave 2 interim reports and one final report. The main conclusion of Shah Commission report is item that affected the people most was a misuse of visa at various levels. And you know why it happened? It happened because majority decision, 4:1 decision of the Supreme Court of India in ATM Jabalpur versus Shivkant Shukla, 1976 Supreme Court, page 1207. Habeas corpus is described as a key that opens the door to freedom. During internal emergency, the right to move to the court for enforcement of Article 14, 19, 21, and 22 was suspended. Article 21 guarantees you life and liberty. And the question in these cases was, please listen to me, lend me your ears, don't write down, don't write anything. Listen to me, don't write anything. Whatever I'm saying, you'll get something there. When I'm speaking, you're not supposed to pick up your pen. You're supposed to pick up your pen only to draw a cartoon of me, because if there is no fun, there's no life. Of course, you can pick up a pen to write a letter to your girlfriend. Because love is the most important thing in life. Or girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever it is. Just listen to me, lend me your ears. Otherwise, you'll miss the point. I was talking about the question in these cases was, in the light of suspension of Article 21, whether writ of habeas corpus is maintainable or not. All high courts, where this question was gone into, 9 to precise, unanimously, every judge held that despite suspension of Article 21, there is rule of law. The government is bound to follow. If there is a violation of law, then the writ of habeas corpus is spent. Matter was taken up to the highest court. And unfortunately, the highest court held, well, government is supposed to follow law, that's it. But if the government does not follow the law, then the courts cannot do anything. They just can be the helpless spectator in all the illegalities that they are seeing. And the result was, they abdicated their role in enforcing the rule of law. If the internal emergency was what is not rule of law, then ADM Jabalpur, it's also known as the habeas corpus case, was a case where the courts abdicated their role in enforcing. Sirvai is supposed to be the greatest constitutional expert. He wrote a classic constitution. I was requesting Justice Sinha that why doesn't he revise a particular book? Maybe he will do it. In the appendix 1 of the book, there is Indian judiciary. And in that book, this is what Sirvai says. The high courts reached their finest hour during the emergency, kept the doors ajar, that the Supreme Court barred and ruled. We have the best democracy in the world. We have the finest bureaucracy in the world. Our judges are learned and able. Our media is so strong. In the media it was said, they were asked to bend, but they chose to crawl. Why did it happen? Why did all of them fail us? Now, before I tell you the reason, which is a crux to my mind of this entire seminar, workshop, and the conference, let me tell you one legal maxim which relates to rule of law. And I'll tell you the reason why I'm narrating it. And the legal maxim is fiat justitia. J is pronounced as ya. Justitia. Ruet sealer. Let justice be done, heavens before. Now, this particular, Lord Denning was undoubtedly one of the greatest judge of the 20th century. He has written many books. And, well, except for one aspect of his judgments, if you leave aside, probably his judgments are excellent. But one should read all his judgments, all his books, not because of the content, but because of the English. That's how the English language should be written. Not the way you read in the newspaper, not the way many of us write our judgments. Now, he explains the origin of this particular legal maxim in his autobiography, The Family Story. I would again very strongly recommend all of you to read not only this one, but all of the books written by him. Now, he says that this particular legal maxim has in fact been used to justify the most outrageous violation. And he says for the first time, it was used by Seneca. Seneca was a Roman Stoic philosopher from 4th century BC to about 65 AD. And he wrote many tragedies. In one of the tragedies, he talks about Piso and Gaius. Piso is a kind of a Roman title for senator, and Gaius was a Roman jurist. He had a lot of influence in Roman law. PSO ordered, PSO ordered the soldier be executed for killing Gaius. When the commander was going to execute him, Gaius appeared in person. He was alive. And the commander said, oh, I am saved from committing a great sin. I would have executed this man, but Gaius is alive. And he took Gaius, the soldier, back to the PSO. So what? You disobeyed my order? You did not follow my order? And he ordered all three of them to be executed. The soldier, because he was already ordered to be executed, you know that criminal law, reviews are not possible in a criminal judgment. It's given once in a final, nobody can touch it. You know. And the commander, because he disobeyed the orders. And Gaius, he also ordered to be executed on the ground that he is responsible for execution of two innocent people. And he justified his decision on the ground. The heavens may fall, but let justice be done. Lord Denning in his book, he explains many such other instances where this particular legal maxim was used with a tongue in cheek. The reason I told you a small story about the beginning of this one, that ultimately this violation of law, this kind of an injustice, gave birth to good legal principle. So is the case of every violation of law, every illegality. If all of them have a lesson, all of them have a moral, and all of them have a silver lining. So is the case with internal emergency and the habeas corpus. The lesson, again, I don't want to quote in my own words. I would like to quote one of the greatest living lawyer of the present, and perhaps probably the greatest jurist at the present time, Nariman. Nariman has written many books. He wrote his autobiography, Before Memory Fades, Indian Legal System, Can It Be Saved, and The State of the Nation. All three of them are very good books, worth reading. Please read them. You will understand where we have gone and where we are heading if we do not correct ourselves. In this book, that's see the photograph, that's the book, and that's what he says. The lesson for emergency is not to place excessive reliance on the constitutional functions. They failed us. The president, minister, most of the members of the parliament, and even the senior judges of the Supreme Court. This was a lesson. This is the model. But like I said, all of them have a silver lining. So is the case with habeas corpus. So is the case with internal evidence. And the silver lining is, again, I would like not to use my own words, but I would like to use a judge who was a very learned man. His name, Learned Hand. Learned Hand, he was a judge of the US Appeal Court. In America, there's two kinds of courts, state courts and the federal courts. We go before federal courts, federal questions gone into, the statistic court, federal appeal court, then US Supreme Court. Now, if you leave aside Justice Holmes, Justice Holmes is the most quoted judge in an English-speaking world. If you leave aside Justice Holmes, Learned Hand is the next most quoted judge. He is even quoted, though he was a judge of a inferior court, he was quoted with approval by the US Supreme Court itself. It is the greatest misfortune of US Supreme Court that he was never elevated. While he is talking about liberty, this is what he says. Liberty lies in your heart. When it dies there, no constitution, no law, can save it. Till it is there, it doesn't require any constitution, any court, anything. Liberty is a facet of rule of law. Substitute the word rule of law in place of liberty. And rule of law should lie in your heart. Pump is there, all right, but apart from the pump, the rule of law should lie in your heart. For 2.5 days, you've understood what is the rule of law, what is your role, keep it in your heart, try to apply your decisions. That is more than sufficient. Nothing else is required. One word about hag. This is a biography of a hag by Gerald Gunter. I mean, that's also a very good biography. I very strongly recommend all of you to read it. Oh, then finish. Let me finish. Then I'll quickly finish. Before I end, I would just like to say about a dissenting judge in the habeas corpus case, Justice H.R. Justice Michael Kirby is a retired judge. He retired as a judge of the highest court from Australia, and we exchange emails very often. And in one of the emails, he said that, Yati, I was very moved by the dissent of Justice Khanna. And some years ago, I was in Delhi. I took appointment. I went to meet him. And to his embarrassment, I bent down and kissed his feet. During internal emergency, the New York Times came out with a front page editorial. And this is what it said. Surely, a statue would be erected to him in an Indian city. Justice Khanna was not the most brilliant judge who had gone there. He was was any one of you, any one of us. In fact, he was the one who came from the subordinate judiciary. But with one judgment, with that dissenting opinion, he became more celebrated, more respected, more famous than any other judge who ever adorned a bench in our judiciary. No one remembers who were the other 4 judges were there in the habeas corpus matter. One was the Chief Justice, 3 others went on to become Chief Justices. No one knows that, but everyone knows him. I hope you will cherish the memories of Chhattisgarh, like what our Chief Minister has said. I hope you remember the Bastar dance in front of the court premises when you go back. I hope you remember the Peach Bai's performance yesterday. I hope you keep rule of law in your heart. You may not become a High Court judge. You may not become a Chief Justice of State. You may not go to Supreme Court. You may not become a Chief Justice of India. But if you have a rule of law in your heart, I'm sure you will end up being as respected as Justice Yatindra Singh. Thank you so much.